behold, more stuff. This is a very interesting lighter that I found. It is quite complicated. I have it, it's another pieced out, tore apart at the moment because it was quite dirty when I found it. And from the research that I have done, wasn't that much. There's only a few pictures that I found of this thing because I didn't know what it was. It was the weirdest lighter I've ever seen. And it's a old, I guess you can say, kind of automatic lighter in the shape of like a water well, a water pump. So I have it tore apart, just cleaning it up. It was a little sweaty, is what they say. But it's really cool. From what I read, it's made by a company or a gentleman named Christian Hinkel. In about 1911, I guess, is when some of these were made in Berlin, or that's at least when they were patented. And this thing fascinates me because there's so much going on with it. This is one of the most complicated lighters I've ever seen, and for good reason. There's 4 different springs in this thing. There's one here. There's one here. There's one for the flint. Look at that beast. Absolute spring. And then there's this one, which actually goes right here. I have it out because I'm kind of cleaning it up. But this one is what kind of controls the automatic function. But how it works is this complicated mechanism sits inside this, and it raises this little arm that is attached right here. And in this arm sits this little, like, lantern. Like that. Inside is your wick. And so I'll do another video once I get it all cleaned up, obviously. But when you wind the little pump back, this will go up here, and then it'll light, comes back down, and then you can just take your little can and use it, and then put the cap back on. But yeah, this was just a really neat lighter. I've never seen one like this before. I've seen other like automatic lighters, like Capital lighters, which are really cool design looking, early 1900s. Nothing like this though. This is probably one of the classiest lighters I've ever seen, and I wish I knew the story behind it. I don't know if this base is original. So the ones I found online, the pictures that I came across, none of them had a base like this. A lot of it's like all metal. But this base is actually pretty classy itself. So it's like, I don't know if it's jadeite or some kind of agate. It's definitely a stone of some kind. But I guess it was made specifically for this lighter. Like someone really cared for this lighter and wanted to put it on this. And so this is actually really cool. It's really heavy. Yeah, it's pretty. But let's go back to the lighter itself. We got a lot of parts here hanging out. So the lighter itself, this thing is really heavy. This is probably twice as heavy as a regular Zippo. I mean, if you really look at the construction of it, early 1900s, what I realized, I see a lot of tooling marks, a lot of filing marks, and it kind of hit me. I'm like, wow, this is almost essentially kind of handmade. There's no aluminum parts, there's no plastic, obviously. This is all like really thick steel and brass. I think the handle is, I think it's plated brass, but everything else, like this is steel, all this is steel, brass, and then this, I'm pretty sure, is brass. But it's ridiculous, and it didn't feel like there was a lot of use. So the striker wheel, or the flint wheel, whatever, I'm not a lighter guy, so I don't really know the proper lingo, but this feels very sharp. The teeth feel very grabby, so this sat somewhere for a long time. and it didn't have a lot of use. So, I found it, just kind of rescued it, cleaning it up. And when I look at the design, I was like, wow, there's a lot going on here. It's really cool. And some of these machine marks, I realize, I'm like, wow, these are assembled by hand and probably hand fitted parts. It's not like everything's just punched out and then screwed onto a bar and then snapped together. Like, no, a lot of these parts, the way they fit together it was custom. Like, each one of these was probably custom built, and they're probably not identical. If you were to strip them apart, the parts are probably not quite interchangeable without maybe some modification. So, like, even this cool little piece really stuck out to me, because it was probably heated and then manually twisted. And then this is threaded. This is solid steel. This is threaded. That's threaded. And this is another cool part of this mechanism. Let me see if I can kind of demonstrate. So even this little arm here, this was hardened, like it was heat treated, and it's like it fits a really good mechanical mechanism here. You can see the little cutout, and you can see how flush that fits. So, and this is kind of like, I wouldn't even say that was machined. That was like hand stoned or sanded down to fit this specific arm made for this lighter. So if you tear apart another one of these, they're probably slightly different. So it's really cool that this was made, pretty much by hand, or assembled by hand, and custom fitted parts. I think that's just blows my mind. I don't know what the original retail price is, but I'm sure this was quite an expensive gadget for its time. And yeah, one of the most unique lighters I've ever seen. What else? Okay, so these two screw holes here, this is where this attaches after it's, inside this base. So this base is brass that is plated. And this is the original nickel. I was kind of debating. I'm like, well, I could always get this replated, but nope, something is only original once. And as soon as it's changed, it's not original anymore, even though it might look nice. But I think this is cool the way it is. It's got some character to it. And so this top actually pops off. Let me peel this guy off. So you can see that it's just plated, I can't say the word, plated brass, chrome plated brass, or nickel plated brass. So there's the tube. And so the holes you see are where the screws go that attach and keep this in place. I mean, this thing's really stout. And then of course it sits on this base once it's all assembled, like so. Let's see here. Oh, so the only marking I found on this entire, there was no branding, that's why I was like, what is this lighter? How do I even, there's got to be some kind of maker out there. And the only thing that I saw was actually on the end of the flint tube was this thumb screw. It's hard to read. It's like patented, and it says CH. And so with some Google foo, I found that, okay, that's Christian Hinkel. It came up. And I think I also Googled water pump lighter. And then there were a few images. I'm like, okay, I'm onto something. What interested me just with this piece too is this was hand turned on a lathe. Like, this individual piece, you can see, was actually turned. So these were not mass produced, or if they were, I mean, there was someone cranking these out in the early 1900s. So yeah, a very cool lighter. I'm really kind of blown away by it. And from what I can tell, not a lighter expert, but it all seems complete. All the screws and all the little parts, the pins, it seemed to function. So this is what holds your wick. This thing unscrews. So this doesn't really sit flush. Let me because I think this was also turned on the lathe, but it has like a, a slope to it with a point in the middle. So I haven't pulled this out yet, but yeah, this is either it wasn't used much or, it was just well cared for, because it's probably over 100 years old. And then this is your individual, I mean, technically this is your lighter. This is just what sparks your light, your little torch. So, yeah, very cool. I don't know if anyone else has done like a video of one of these before, but it's a fascinating lighter. If you come across one, looks like a little water pump, like an old style water pump. And it's just gorgeous the way it was made. It's just so much engineering and craftsmanship went into this. And it's cleaning up real nice. It was just, there's a little bit of corrosion. It actually wasn't too bad, but I'm kind of like OCD that way, where I don't like any rust or anything. But in this case, with some of the pitting and whatnot, I can live with that. It's okay. The Christian Hinkel table lighter.